Hello everybody. So this is the third part of the video on organizing. In part 1 and part 2, we had discussed process of organizing, formal and informal organizations, span of management, and different forms of departmentation. In part 3, we will discuss line and staff functions, decentralization, delegation, and mistakes in organizing. Let us begin with line and staff. Line and staff can be seen from two aspects. One as a type of department and second in the form of relationships. If you have to understand in terms of departments, please understand that line department is that particular department of the organization which, if removed, then the organization does not have any meaning left, no purpose left. I am giving you two examples here. Indian Oil Corporation. Refining is the line department. If you remove this refining portion, then Indian Oil Corporation will not carry any meaning. The other departments like HR, admin, finance, they are all staff departments. They are the ones which will help the line department to function properly. Similarly, if you take an educational institution, teaching departments are line departments. If you remove the teaching departments, then that educational institution has no meaning. And administration, examination, finance, they are all staff departments because they help the line department to function properly. So this is the explanation in terms of departments. Let us move to the relationship part. Line authority is that relationship in which a superior exercises direct supervision over a subordinate. So when your boss has a relationship with you, then that is a line authority. Staff authority is a little different. Nature of staff relationship is advisory. Their job is to investigate, research, and give advice to line managers. We can understand it better if we have a look at the organization chart here. Please note the dotted lines, the red dotted lines. They are indicating the line relationship. So it is a relationship between the superior and the subordinate. And can you see the orange broken line, the arrow which is moving from HRM to production? These kind of relationships are referred to as staff. In terms of departmentation, this production department where you see the orange star, this production department is the line department and the rest are all staff departments. So if you have HRM and finance, they are staff because they help the line department to function properly. As mentioned, staff is advisory in nature, but there are certain limitations. Sometimes staff thinks that it becomes all powerful, they think they know it all. So therefore they undermine line authority, and that is not desirable. Second, they will not take responsibility for the suggestions that they are offering. Third, if they are not really involved with what the line is doing, then their suggestions come from a place of vacuum. So that is thinking in vacuum. And at times it leads to disunity of command. I will just explain it. If you look at this bottom level, person out here, he is supposed to be listening to his boss, who is the production head. At times it may happen that staff will get over ambitious and try to influence this person out here. Then it undermines line authority, and also this leads to disunity of command. Let us now move to decentralization. We are aware that when we say decentralization, it means that powers are not centralized at one place. It is delegated and handed over to some more other functions. Now, whether you are going to have decentralization or not depends on a number of factors. Let us understand one by one. Number one is cost of decision. If the decision that has to be made is very costly in terms of maybe the actual price that you pay for it, or maybe in terms of that if there is going to be a mistake, it is going to be a huge mistake, or maybe in terms of national security, then you are not going to decentralize. So if the cost of decision is very high, you are not going to decentralize. Otherwise, you can. Second is uniformity of policy. If there is uniform policy across departments or across territories also, then it is easy to decentralize. Everybody will know what is to be done because you have a policy in place. But for some reason, if there is no policy or it is not possible to have a policy for the time being, then you cannot decentralize. Let me take up the third and fourth point together. Size and character of the organization and history and culture. Size, we understand that generally, if it is a small organization, you can do without decentralization because the organization is small, a centralized system will work. But if it is a large organization, then there is necessity for decentralization. Talking of character, history, and culture, observe those organizations which have been started by ex-army people or ex-defense services people. You will see that their style of functioning is a little different from the other organizations. So those organizations will have a tendency to be highly centralized. Another example is that when you see that it is a family run business and it is now trying to convert itself into a public limited company, the founders are not able to decentralize because for so long they have been used to taking decisions and deciding what is good for the organization. And so now once they are trying to convert into a public limited company, decentralization does not come automatically for them. Number 5 is management philosophy. If the founders decide that yes, we are going to have a decentralized organization and that is the management philosophy, then you will have a decentralized organization. Else, not. Desire for independence. If the managers who are working out there would like to work independently, then the organization will consider decentralization. But there is also the other side that you must have such kind of managers available. So only when you have these kind of managers available who can take up the responsibility and work independently, then decentralization is possible. And finally, the last point is control techniques. When you decentralize, you are handing over a part of your power to somebody else. But you must also ensure that the work is going to be done accordingly. So therefore, appropriate control techniques have to be in place. Otherwise, decentralization is not going to work. When you decentralize, you are delegating authority. And delegation is a process where you have to determine the end results from a position. So when you're delegating to your subordinate, you must understand what is it that you are looking out by delegating. And then you must assign tasks to this subordinate. Giving the job itself is not the end. The subordinate has to be given some amount of authority also. And the moment you give authority, you can always hold the person responsible. So when you keep these steps in mind, then your delegation is going to work out proper. There are two words that we use here. One is splintered authority and the other is re-centralization. Splintered authority is when there are two people who are in charge, and you will notice this very frequently when you see checks of large amount being signed and there are joint signatories, which means there are two persons responsible out there. So the authority is splintered. Re-centralization is the opposite of decentralization, in the sense that you had decentralized and delegated, and then you decide that it is not necessary to do it anymore, so therefore you take back those powers. So that is re-centralization. Delegation is an art. I may have just taught you the theory how to delegate, but it depends on the person also. If you are delegating, you have to be receptive and you have to be willing to let go. Most of the times we hate giving up our power, and for some reason we are not just comfortable with letting somebody else do a part of our job. So therefore the first thing is that we have to be willing to let go and also understand that there are going to be some mistakes which are going to be made, and we assume that these mistakes are not going to be very costly. That is why we are considering delegation. So therefore we have to be also comfortable with the idea that this person who's going to do the job that I am assigning is likely to make mistakes. And I must trust my subordinates. Trust my subordinates that they will do the job properly, although they may make a few mistakes here and there. And finally, I must establish and use broad controls. There has to be some control system in place. Just by handing over the job or a part of the authority and holding the person responsible is not the end. I must have a control system in place so that from time to time I can monitor how the work is being done. Although we have studied, the theory behind organizing, there are places where we can make mistakes. We make mistakes when we fail to plan properly, clarify relationships, delegate authority, and balance delegation. Planning is the blueprint, na? Based on the plan, we are creating the organization. And when we are creating the organization chart, we must clarify the relationships between different positions that we have created. We have just learned about delegation. So if we do not delegate properly, if we do not balance this delegation, then things are not going to work out. Second is we confuse lines of authority with lines of information. Remember, the line function is the major function and staff was the support function. So staff will give us information, staff will give us suggestions, but we should not confuse it with lines of authority out there. Then third is granting authority without exacting responsibility and vice versa. This comes in the context of delegation. We are granting authority because we have delegated, but then we don't hold the person responsible. That will not do. And reverse, vice versa. You cannot hold somebody responsible for a task which you have not delegated and which you have not authorized. Fourth is careless application of staff. Staff has to be used in the right context. We understand that it is a support system for the line function and has to be used accordingly. Multiple subordination. Remember, Fayol had said unity of command. So this unity of command has to be followed, except in the case of this matrix organization where you will have a little bit of problem coming here and there. But if you are doing the matrix in the smart way, you will actually release the person from the parent department and let him work in the project. And only when the project is over, then we'll come back and report to the parent department. So in this manner, you can remove the multiple subordination. And finally, the last mistake is misuse of functional authority. Now, functional authority is the right delegated to an individual or department to control specified processes, practices, policies, or other matters relating to activities undertaken by persons in other departments. Let me explain this with the help of an example. We have HR departments in all major organizations, and their job is to do recruitment for the whole organization. So irrespective of which department you belong, you will always fall back on HR to do the recruitment for you. So HR has functional authority in terms of recruitment. Only that much. HR cannot specify, who you should recruit, how many you should recruit, because all these specifications will come from the user department. And when HR starts dictating these terms and conditions, then it is a misuse of its functional authority. So with this, we come to the end of the third function of management. Sorry, that was the second function of management, that is organizing. Thank you very much for tuning in.